Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Wednesday on RTO with yours truly, Iain. As today is Wednesday, it only means one thing: we have a marathon Wednesday, and today it is a viewer's request. I'm getting so many now, I forget who's asked for what, but I always make a note. And today we're doing Iron Maiden. Someone asked me to do Iron Maiden. They asked me to do quite a list, so this is the first one I'm going to do. Now, I don't mind doing Iron Maiden because I have been probably an Iron Maiden fan from day one. When Iron Maiden started, I was a 12, 13-year-old just getting into metal, and these were one of the bands, and they're a very dear band when it comes to metal. You know, I followed Iron Maiden for their entire career. I think they've made some really good albums, and they have made some not so good albums. But when you've been a fan as long as me, I think I can be allowed to sort of be a little bit more critical of a band that I'm very it's like being supporting a football team or a cricket team or a rugby team. You stick with them through thick and thin, and I have. Okay, Iron Maiden formed on Christmas Day 1975 by Steve Harris. He got the name of the band from the film adaptation of The Man in the Iron Mask, from the novel, of course, by Alexander Dumas. And the torture device, the Iron Maiden. They've formed a band. Now it's been put on record, and Steve Harris has said that they had so many people to start with. You know, that's I'm keen, and then his girlfriend said, "No, you can't do that." They started playing gigs at St Nick's Hall in Poplar in '76. Then they sort of took up a semi-residency at the Cart and Horses pub in Maryland. The pub now is officially named the birthplace of Iron Maiden. We've had quite a few lineup changes and people going away and coming back, and they are just worldwide phenomenal now. So they have released up to date 17 albums and a hatful of live albums, which we've already looked at. So today we're going to look at the studio albums as requested by one of our subscribers. So here we go. So coming in at number 17 then. It's the 11th album, released on the 23rd of March 1998. It's Virtual 11. It was the second and final album with Blaze Bayley. So the lineup is Blaze Bayley on the vocals, Dave Murray on guitars, Yannick Gears on guitars, Stevie Harris on the bass, and Nico McBrain. First track then, Future Real. Personally, I don't mind this. It's that typical. I love that. I've always loved that Iron Maiden, that galloping bass that Steve Harris has got. The song's great, but I never really could get on with Blaze Bayley's vocals. He always sounded a little flat, especially when he used to sing the classics. I mean, I've only heard like bootleggy concerts with him in it, and I just don't like it. I'm sorry, I thought he was a great singer in Wolfsbane, but he wasn't really Iron Maiden thing. So it's a good song, but I just don't like the lyric. Second track, The Angel and the Gambler. this has got to be the worst ever track ever put down by Iron Maiden. The repetitives of don't think you don't think I'm a saviour. Oh, it really gets on my wick. It wasn't, I mean, this is Stevie Harris wrote this. You know, come on, Steve, we know you can write some great tunes. Unless he was getting peed off, I don't know. But it is the worst track ever. Lightning Strikes Twice. Very mediocre. It just doesn't do anything for me. Now the next track does. It's the Klansmen. I love this song. Musically, it is a very, very good piece of Iron Maiden work. But I prefer the live version when Bruce sings it. He gives it more feel. He gives it more meaning. And I'm glad they still do this now, because it is a fantastic song and I love it. When Two Worlds Collide. I love the arrangement. I think that Dave Murray's guitar work on this is fantastic. So is Yannick Gears. But again, it's let down by that terrible, terrible vocal. The Educated Fool. There's just nothing good about that track at all. Now, I haven't listened to this album in ages, and it's understandably why. Don't Look to the Eyes of the Stranger. Again, it's got too much repetitive lyrics. It just bores me to death. And then Come On, Estas Amigos. I think the only good thing about this is the guitar solos. Yannick and Dave really play well on that. That's the only good thing I can say about it. Okay, apart from the Klansmen, there's nothing on this album that really stands out for me at all. I like some of the arrangements and the music, but I just couldn't get on with Paley, I'm afraid. So I'm going to give this an RTO ranking of 4 out of 10, purely on the Klansmen and some of the arrangements. But the singing is a little bit desired to me. Okay then, coming in at number 16, we have the 10th album, released in 1995, The X Factor, the first album to feature Blaze Bayley. So we've got Blaze, Dave, Yannick, Steve, Nico, and Michael Kenny does some keyboard work on this. First song, again, my favourite song on the album, and a song that I love, Sign of the Cross. But like the Klansmen, I love it when Bruce sings this, because he sings it far better. It's a great song. Great arrangement. It's got all them elements of Iron Maiden, the great bass line, the really good guitar work, some great drumming by Nico on that as well. Great track. Pity about the singer. Next track, Lord of the Flies. Another good driving, galloping song by Maiden. I've heard Bruce sing this and he sings it far better. I am sorry, I just cannot cope with this lineup of Iron Maiden. Okay, I brought the album because I'm a Iron Maiden fan, but they're not what I call played a lot. Man on the Edge. It's alright, I suppose. Fortunes of War. Great song, great galloping riffs, and that's what I'll say about it. Look at the Truth. I just can't get into it. I really can't. I struggle. The Aftermath. it's probably one of the only songs that the vocals are pretty good. It's not a bad song either. Some great guitar work from Dave Murray, of course. Judgment of Heaven, it's a bit of the same. I love the tune, but I hate the vocals. Blood on the World's Hands, I think this is one of the best songs that Blaze ever sang with Iron Maiden. The Edge of Darkness, again, I just love the work, but you know what I'm going to say, I don't like the lyrics. 2 AM, that's barely listenable. The Unbeliever, just ruined by the bad vocal performance. Okay, this album is a little bit better than Virtual 11. Not much though. So I'm just going to give it an RTO ranking of 4 out of 5. Okay, from now on, I like all these albums. They're in this order for a reason. Okay, I might upset a few people, but you've got to remember it's what I hear. I understand that there's so many great songs by this band, and we all have our favourites, and there's nothing wrong with that. But this is my personal thing. Doesn't mean I'm right. It doesn't mean I'm wrong. But main thing is we all love Iron Maiden. That's all that matters. So coming in at number 15, we have the 15th album, released in 2010, The Final Frontier. Of course, this has got Bruce Dickinson, Dave Murray, Adrian Smith, Yannick Gears, Steve Harris and Nico McBrain. First track, Satellite 15. I love that. I love the start. That is intense. But what I don't like is the 3-minute intro. It's a bit repetitive, and by the time Bruce starts singing, you're bored. I know there's people like this track, but I just find that intro is just far too long. The bit at the beginning, that bass sound, fantastic. Couple of minutes of that, and then go into singing, and you would have held me all the way. But 3 minutes of listening to this, it just didn't do anything for me. El Dorado, I actually like this song. Got some brilliant bass work from Steve Harris, as ever, and the guitar work. This 3 guitar thing works. I do like the sound they create. People have a go at Yannick, and he's on stage. What's he doing? He does a great lot of work in the studio. He's a very good guitarist. I like him, and I do like El Dorado. Mother of Mercy, it's okay. It's not brilliant, but it's okay. Coming Home, love this. Bruce's vocal is actually one of the best vocals on this album. Solid track. The Alchemist, classic to me. Short, sharp, galloping bass line. Nico's drumming's great on here. This is what I like. This is the Iron Maiden I love. The short, sharp intros, bang, and we're rocking. Isle of Avalon, sorry. It's okay. It's got a great guitar solo on it. There's lots of nice little guitar pieces in this, but I just felt this is about 3 or 4 minutes too long. Starblind, not my favourite. The Talisman, I love this galloping song again that you get with Maiden, but there's a bit in the middle that could have been shortened by 2 minutes. I just don't know what they're thinking sometimes. I really don't, because I don't want these boring bits in Iron Maiden. Progressive metal deals with all that. This is a heavy metal band. You want fast, furious songs. The Man Who Would Be King. Once it gets starting, it's great. But that intro again, oh. Get rid of the intro. A little bit of an intro, bang into the track, fantastic. As it stands, it just... I do struggle with these long intros from Iron Maiden, I really do. And then we get my favourite track, the last track, where When the Wild Wind Blows. I do like this track. What I like about this is that it does hold you. It's short, sharp bursts. Really good track. This album has got some really, really good tracks on it. But as most of these later albums, some of the intros are just way too long. Or you get a middle piece that's just, what's that doing there? But I do like the album in places. And I'll give it an RTO ranking of 6.5. Okay, then number 14. We go to 19... Okay, I didn't put it down. Oh, sometimes I forget to put the year it comes down. It's No Prayer for the Dying. This is the first album. I'll put the year up in the when I do the editing. There we go. I'm going to have a stab. See how close I am. This is the first album to feature Yannick Gears, who replaced Adrian Smith. So we're talking 1990. See how good close I was. Okay, so on this album we've got Bruce Dickinson, Dave Murray, Yannick Gears, Steve Harrison, Nico McBrain. Michael Kenny does the keyboards again. First track, Tail Gunner. Love this track. My favourite track on the album. Love that opening bass line. Some great drumming from Nico on this, and great guitar work between Yannick and Dave Murray. Second song, Holy Smoke. Never been a great fan of this song. Bit irritating to me, but I do love the guitar solo. I love the guitar solo on this. The title track's next one, No Prayer for the Dying. It's okay. It's not the best track on the album. Fourth track, Public Enema number 1. It's an average song, but Bruce's voice is sounding a little bit shot on this. He's straining a little bit. I know he had problems with his health, with his throat, and I think this maybe he was struggling here. And I'm not taking the mickey out of him, because I think he's a fantastic frontman and a great man. But I think his voice was a little bit weak on this album. Next track, Fate's Warning. I don't like that one much at all. The Assassin. It's not too bad. It's not too bad at all. Standard Iron Maiden, really. Run Silent, Run Deep. I love Nico's drums on this. And again, some great guitar work from Dave Murray and Yannick Gears. Fantastic stuff on that. Hooks in You. Love this. It's good old-fashioned Iron Maiden. And it's actually a song that Adrian Smith wrote with Bruce Dickinson, so he gets a writing mention on this album, which is great. Probably why it's a damn decent song as well. Then we get Bring Your Daughter to the Slaughter, which is a song that Bruce Dickinson wrote that was going to go on one of his solo albums or something. And Steve Harris says, well, I want that. and it ended up on this. Okay, it got them to #1. Great, brilliant, but it's not the best track in the world. But I do like what it stood for, and got them a #1 single, which was fantastic. And the last track, Mother Russia. A lot of people slate this off. I like it. Okay, it sounds a bit like another song, which we'll talk about later. But I like that Russian feel to it. I love that atmosphere to it. And it is a great track. Okay, this album, bit of a mixed bag. Poor old Bruce's voice, though. I think that's all them years of touring. It took toll on him, and you know, I do feel sorry. I've read his book, and you know, if you've read the book, What Does This Button Do, you'll understand what was going on at that time. And I think they know now this is one of the best albums they put out. It's got some memorable tunes on it though, so I'll give it an RTO ranking of 7 out of 10. Okay, coming in at number 13, 16th album, released in 2015. It's the first band's doubles album, and it's also their longest. It's Book of Souls again. Bruce Dickinson, Dave Munnery, Yannick Gears, Adrian Smith, Steve Harris, Nico McBrain. First track, If Eternity Should Fail. I love this. It is really good. I love the start to this, that eeriness of it. It's fantastic. Really good track. Speed of Light, just what it says on the tin. It's Iron Maiden. Great little track. The Great Unknown. Love that start, that bass line from Stevie is brilliant. But it goes on for too long. I don't want to hear Steve Harris playing bass for 2.5 minutes. I want to hear the rest of the band. Sorry. I know I'm upsetting people. Well, they're probably pulling their hair out, but that, you know, there's a reason why. I just don't want to hear 2 minutes of it. The Red and Black. Love this. It is great. Love everything about it. Okay, it's one of their longer tracks, but this doesn't linger. It's punchy. It's in short pieces. There's nothing there that makes me want to fall and think of other things. I'm concentrating on this song. Great song. When the River Runs Deep. Pretty solid track. Nothing wrong with that one. Book of Souls. This has some classic galloping Iron Maiden, as I call it, but it's also got ordinary bits in it. And again, I think this is just too long. Needs to be cut a little bit more. Death or Glory. Solid Iron Maiden there. Shadows of the Valley. The beginning of this sounds so much like Wasted Years, it's unbelievable. But it's okay. Tears of the Clown. I don't like this at all. It's, you know, this is supposed to be about Robin Williams. Don't want to hear Iron Maiden doing songs. If you can do a song about Robin Williams, give it a better title. Tears of a Clown. It's a bit disrespectful. Don't like it. The Man of Sorrows. That's okay. Empire of the Clouds. Love the song. Love the idea of it. But it's just too damn long. They're just not. I don't think Iron Maiden can do tracks more this long. You know, leave that to Dream Theater. Leave that to Symphony X. They know how to do epics. but this is just too long. It's I do like the tune, I like the melody, but it's just long. I think they could have squeezed all this on one album, because it's a shame, because I do like this album, but I just think that some of the tracks just need to be shortened and get rid of some of that monotonous, boring bit. People probably go, "What's he talking about? He's mad." I'm sorry, guys, but that's how I feel about this album. I like it and I play it, but it does go on and on, But I'll give it a 7.5 ranking though, because some of the tracks on here are really good and some of the guitar work is fantastic. Okay then, coming in at number 12, we have the most current album, Senjutsu, released September of this year. The first album for nearly 6 years, so it's the longest gap between Iron Maiden albums. Now, I did a review of this when it came out, and if you watch that, my views haven't changed that much when I look at the bigger picture. I mean, Senjutsu, the first song, yeah, it's got one of them nice long intros, and it's pretty good. I like that. Some nice guitar work on this. Strachigo, it's got them galloping riffs again, and Bruce sounds really good. Writing on the Wall, still my favourite track. I love that Mexican start, really good. Lost for Words, really good track, some nice guitar work again on it again, but I just feel again it goes on a little bit too long. Days of Future Past, another great track. I love that, as I said before, I love the Smith and Dickinson songs. That's really sharp and punchy. It's only 4 minutes. The Time Machine, really good, again reminds me of the Seventh Son, really good track. And then we go on to Disc 2, Darkest Hour, very good, got some really strong guitar work and everything's held together. Death of the Celts, again one of Steve Harris's best tracks. It's got them elements of the Rime of the Ancient Mariner in there, and got the Scottish feel from Klansmen. It's a very good track. And The Parchment, another good track, but it's just 2 minutes too long for me. Hell on Earth, this is just too long. First 2.5 minutes is repetitive intro, then Bruce doesn't start singing until we're 3 minutes into the track. As I said before, this is a very good album. It's not a classic, but in the bigger picture I still give it an RTO ranking of 7.9, because I do like of the arrangements. It's still a very good album and I have played it quite a lot. Okay then, coming in at number 11, we have the debut album, released in 1980. It was the only album to feature Dennis Stratton. So the lineup for this debut album was Paul Di'Anno, Steve Harris, Dave Murray, Dennis Stratton and Clive Burr. God rest his soul, great drummer. Opens up with the classic Prowler. Oh, love that opening riff. Paul Di'Anno singing like a trooper. Absolutely belting track. One of my favourites from the band. Then we get Remember Tomorrow. I just love that bass line. It's quite eerie, and then it goes into that great rocking bit. Paul Di'Anno really singing well. Then we have a great song, Running Free. I love this. Song of my childhood, my youth, my teen years. Awesome track. No matter how many times you hear it, it sounds brilliant. Then we get my favourite track on the album, one of their best tracks, Phantom of the Opera. Just brilliant. I love that twin guitar bit at the beginning and the heaviness of Clive Burr's drumming as well. Just one of the greatest tracks they ever made. Definitely top 10 Iron Maiden song. Okay, Transylvania. Before I start, my throat is drying. There we go. Transylvania, instrumental track. Some great work from both Dennis and Dave on this. Terrific little number that is. Then we get Strange World. Now, probably one of the weakest tracks on the album, and it's never been a particular favourite of mine. It's okay, but it's not the best. Then we get the brilliant Charlotte the Harlot, classic Iron Maiden, brilliant. Then the album closes with, of course, Iron Maiden. There's not much you can say about this. Great track, but it's one of them tracks, Iron Maiden tracks, that if I never hear it again, I won't be upset. And the light's fading again. What's happening to the weather these days? I need to put the light on. I cannot see what I'm reading. There we go. Sorry about that, folks. Anyway, let's go back to Iron Maiden, the album. They say it's one of the most influential debut albums ever. Everyone sort of got people into music and forming bands. The production's a little bit dodgy, because a certain producer wasn't able to do it, Martin Birch. I've heard the remaster now, and it does sound a little bit better. They've cleaned everything up a little bit, and it's a brilliant album. So I'll give this an RTO ranking of 8 out of 10. Okay, we're now moving into the top 10. So starting the top 10, we have the 9th album, released in 1992, Fear of the Dark. This was the last to feature Bruce Dickinson as the lead vocalist until his return in 1999. So we have Bruce Dickinson, Dave Murray, Yannick Gears, Steve Harris and Nico McBrain. Opens up with the brilliant Be Quick or Be Dead. Awesome track, ripping track, just what you love. And voice, Ian, getting tongue tied here, Bruce sounds a lot better than he did on No Prayer for the Dying. Second track, From Here to Eternity. Stevie Brute bass sounds brilliant on this, great guitar work. Afraid to Shoot Strangers. Again, Steve Harris's work is good, and I love them off-kilter solos from Dave Murray or Yannick. I'm not sure who does it, but it's a bit different and it sounds great. And Bruce, of course, sounds great on this. Fear is the Key, superb track. Love that eerie intro. Nico McBrain's drumming is fantastic. He's such a solid drummer. The fun man of the band as well. Next track, Childhood's End. Not my favourite track on the album. Wasting Love. They're trying to sing a slower song, but to be quite honest, it don't work. I don't like it. The Fugitive, solid track, like that one a lot. Chains and Misery. I love these short, sharp tracks. It's just Maiden at their best. The Apparition. This is quite quirky. It's one of them riffs that you can't get out of your head. It's really good. Judas Be My Guide. Bruce is shouting more than singing. I don't like it. Weekend Warrior. Oh dear. Probably one of the weakest tracks and one of their worst tracks ever. And then we get the brilliant Fear of the Dark. It's become a firm favourite with the fans, of course, because they sing they sing sort of the intro. It's a great track. It is a classic. Really good album, apart from a couple of tracks. But this album, I think, is very underrated. There's some absolute belters on here, and I'll give it an RTO ranking of 8.3. Okay, coming in at number 9. It's the 12th album, released in 2000. It was the album we was all dying for after 2 terrible albums. It was the return of Bruce and Adrian, and what I thought was nice, they didn't kick out Yannick Gears. But apparently Steve Harris said he's always wanted a 3-guitar band. I don't know how true that is. But he got what he wanted. So the band was Bruce Dickinson, Dave Murray, Adrian Smith, Yannick Gears, Steve Harris and Nico McBrain. The band the lineup that's been together since 2000. Fantastic lineup as well. Okay, opens up with the Brilliant Wicker Man. First time I heard this, I thought all of a sudden Iron Maiden are back. Killer track, killer riffs, killer singing. That's a fantastic track. Then we get The Ghost of the Navigator, written by Yannick and Dickinson and Harris. Very good track. Love the deep riffs in this. Fantastic stuff. Got the title track, Brave New World. Love this track. Really solid. Short, well, it's 6 minutes long, but it's the perfect length. Blood Brothers. Love this track. One of the finest songs. Oh, everyone sings it, and when you hear it live, brilliant. The Mercenary, again one of the short, sharp, galloping bass lines from Stevie Harris. Great stuff. Dream of Mirrors, my favourite track on the album. I love that bass line, and get some nice gentle touches on the drums from Nico. He doesn't have to bash the drums. Very, very good. The Fallen Angel, classic Iron Maiden, the galloping bass line, love it. The Nomad, I like the start of this. I like that this is where them long boring bits start to edge in, and it is a couple of minutes too long in my eyes. It's a good track though. Open the Planet, Silent Planet, good track, solid riffs. Bruce sounds fantastic on this. And then the last track on the album is The Thin Line Between Love and Hate. Again, it's a little bit too long. Could have cut the last 2 minutes. But this is the album that everyone was so wanting, and it delivered, except the little long pieces are creeping in. But it's a fantastic comeback album after Virtual 11, and I'll give it an RTO ranking of 8.4. Okay, coming in at number 8 then, we have the 13th studio album, released in 2003, The Dance of Death. So we've got that lineup of Bruce, Steve, Dave, Yannick, Adrian and Nico. First track is Wildest Dreams. Great track to open up the album with. Nico, I love it when you hear Nico going 1, 2, or wars or anything, one of his silly bits, and then it goes straight into the track. Fantastic. Rainmaker, great guitar riffs, And again, great vocal from Bruce, and Nico's drumming is great on this. Then we get No More Lies, solid, not a bad track, one of the favourites on the album. Then we got never know how to pronounce this, Monsegur, whatever, I'm sure you know what I mean. Love this. Again, it's got that galloping bass line from Steve Harris, ever present as well, the drumming from Nico, and some great riffs. Dance of Death, classic, epic, great guitar work from all three of them. They have both at three amazing guitarists, and when they're working together like this, it's fantastic. Really, this is the track I think that the three of them really started to gel. It's really, really good. Gates of Tomorrow, not my favourite track. New Frontier, again, that classic Iron Maiden sound that sounds a lot richer now with the three guitarists. Fantastic. Then we get my favourite track, Passchendaele. It's just epic. It feels like you're in that trench from the First World War. That Passchendaele, brilliantly written, brilliantly executed song. Facing the Sand, again, just classic sounding Maiden, very, very good song. Age of Innocent, it's great, but the guitar solo goes on and on and on and on and on and on and on. And then we get a very controversial track called Journeyman. I like the idea of the track. I think it's different, but what spoils it is the long bass bit in the middle again. Cut that out and it would have been a better song, but I just don't know what Steve Harris thinks that we want to listen to him playing the bass guitar for such a long time. I don't want to. He's the engine room. Do what you're good at, Steve. A very good album, very strong album. Got some great tracks on this, but you know that them little long bits again, they're starting to creeping in, and I find that a little bit tedious. I know I shouldn't say this about one of my favourite bands, but I like short, sharp, heavy metal songs. Leave the progressive metal to the boys that know what they're doing. I know I've said that a couple of times, but I still give this album an RTO ranking of 8.5 because it has got some crackers on it. Okay, coming in at number 7, 14th album, released in 2006, A Matter of Life and Death. One of my favourite albums of the later period, this is. It's got some absolute corkers on here. So we've still got that solid lineup: Bruce Dickinson, Dave Murray, Yannick Gears, Adrian Smith, Steve Harris, Nico McBrain. First track, A Different World. Great stuff. I love the intro from Nico again. Very solid track. Nice riffs in this one. Fantastic. These Colours Don't Run. Brilliant track. I love how the drums, Nico really drives this song. His drumming is so precise. Fantastic track. Brighter Than a Thousand Suns. That recurring riff through it all the way through is brilliant. And the other, you got, I don't know which of the guys is doing it, but they keep recurring, and the other two just seem to work around that riff. Fantastic. The Pilgrim, Steve Harris, bassline, galloping. I just love the galloping stuff that he does. It feels like you're on horseback. Great stuff. Really solid track. Let me get my favourite track. People say this is too long. It isn't. It's telling a story. The Longest Day, of course, all about D-Day. You get that galloping bass line. You get the eeriness. You get that atmosphere that you've been waiting for the landing craft going down and the doors going down. Very, very good, and it sounds really better live. Fantastic track. Out of the Shadows, probably one of the weaker songs on the album. And we get another favourite of mine, the Reincarnation of Benjamin Brigg. I really like that intro. The first 2 minutes, it does hold you, and then you get that riff that keeps coming in. Bruce sounds fantastic on this. It's a fantastic track. For the Greater Good of God, the intro's just far too long, but once you get past the intro, it's a cracking track. Lord of the Light, again, the opening bit, the bass opening, I don't know, I just don't like it. I like Stevie Harris's bass playing. He's one of the best metal bass players about, but we don't want to hear too much of him soloing. But once you get through that, again, this track is great. The Legacy, again, the intro's just too long. The acoustic guitar doesn't sound right. It's a shame because the rest of the song is brilliant. Again, really strong songs on here, but it's the long intros again. There's just too many bass intros on this one. But once you get past them, the tracks are cracking. And I'll give it an RTO ranking of 8.8. Okay, coming in at number 6. This will surprise a lot of people. It's the third studio album, released in 1982. It's the Number of the Beast. First to feature Bruce Dickinson, of course, and the last to feature Clive Burr. So we've got Bruce Dickinson, Dave Murray, Adrian Smith, Steve Harris, and Clive Burr. Invaders, great track. Great way to introduce Bruce Dickinson. Galloping riffs, great singing, fantastic. Children of the Damned, classic. Some of Clive Burr's best drumming. Great track, I love that. I prefer it to another track on this album, actually. Then we get my favourite track on the album, The Prisoner. Yeah, you got the start, brilliant. Patrick McGowan, good man. Got permission, and he adds to the atmosphere of this song. But my favourite bit of this song is the guitar bit in the middle, and where you've got Adrian Smith, Dave Murray, and Clive Burr. Brilliant. That harmony guitar solo in it is fantastic. I love it. Then we get another fantastic song. Charlotte the Harlot Part 2, 22 Acacia Avenue. Continuing story of Charlotte, brilliant track. Love 22 Acacia Avenue, one of my favourite tracks on the album. Well, then we get Number of the Beast. Love that start. I love Barry Clayton doing his best Vincent Price impression. A lot of people thought it was Vincent Price. No, it's Barry Clayton. Great vocal from Bruce. Great guitar solos. But it's one of those tracks, if I never hear it again, I don't get upset. Doesn't mean I don't like this. I love Number of the Beast. But it's just overplayed. Bit like Run to the Hills. Very overplayed. But I love the video to it. I think it's one of the best videos ever. I just love those Indians on the bikes. Then we get to it, the most controversial track on the album, Gangland. There was a better track that should have been put on the album than this. And we're talking about Total Eclipse, of course. But in the remaster, it's actually on there now, which is pretty cool. But Gangland I never did like. Okay, the final track, of course, is Hallowed Be Thy Name. This is a classic song. Now, when I first heard it, when it came out, I thought it was really, really good. But as time has gone on, I've not gone off it. Doesn't hold the same esteem as it did in 1982. And people say, "Oh, this is the best song they've written." It's not the best song. It's a great song, but it's not the best. Well, that's in my opinion, of course. I think when you've been listening to Hallowed Be Thy Name since 1982, and it appears on every live album since, you saw not this again. But it's still, I must admit, it is a classic track. Okay, this is a great album, one of the best albums of 1982, probably one of the best metal albums out. I just think it's overplayed now. I very rarely put this album on now, but I still give it, I've still got a lot of praise for it, and I'll give it an RTO ranking of 9 out of 10. Okay then, coming in at number 5, Time for a Drink. That's not the name of the album, it's me thirsty. That's better, right. Where do we get to? 6th album, released in 1986, Somewhere in Time. Bruce Dickinson, Dave Murray, Adrian Smith, Steve Harris, Nico McBrain. First track, Caught Somewhere in Time. This has got to be one of the greatest openings of all the Iron Maiden albums. Love that guitar synthy sound, and then it just goes off into this galloping track. Now I was lucky enough to see them on this tour, and the opening bit, you get the Blade Runner theme, and then it goes into the pre-recorded beginning of this track. Absolutely brilliant. There is an actual concert, because that tour, Rod Smallmore didn't want to put it on, didn't want to have a live album too soon after Live After Death, but you know, they churn them out. I think that this was probably a brilliant gig, and there is someone that's put something together. It is out there, and I'm sure you've watched it, but that's brilliant track. Second track, Wasted Years, classic. Love the guitar work on this. Great track. Sea of Madness. I love that catchy riff at the beginning, and it's got a catchy chorus as well. Brilliant. Heaven Can Wait. This song's great up to a point. I don't like the woo woo. Nah. Get rid of that. And then but the thing is, after that it goes into that belting guitar solo from Dave Murray. So it's, again, that shouldn't have been in there, but hey ho. Then we get The Loneliness of a Long Distance Runner. Love the start, it's great, it's a great intro, and then it goes into some sort of dribble that I just don't like. It's, again, one of the weakest songs I've ever put out. You know, it's 6:31, and after the first 2 or 3 minutes I just don't like it. Then we get to my favourite track on the album, and one of my favourite tracks, Stranger in a Strange Land. Love that bass line. Classic. And there's not many versions of this live officially out there, but I can assure you this is brilliant live. It's a lot heavier live. It's a brilliant song. Then we get Deja Vu. It's got some nice riffs in this. A terrific solo, but it's not the best song. Then the album closes with Alexander the Great. I love this track. A lot of people don't. I just like the guitar stuff in this from Adrian and Dave. They play fantastically on this track. Brilliant album. Very fond of this one because I saw them on this tour. It's got some absolutely brilliant stuff. We've got the introduction of the guitar synths, which I think they use brilliantly. So I'll give this an RTO ranking of 9.4. Okay then, coming in at number 4, we have the fourth album, released in 1983, Peace of Mind. First album to feature drummer Nico McBrain, of course. So we got Bruce Dickinson, and he plays guitar on Revelations on this. Dave Murray, Adrian Smith, Steve Harris, Nico McBrain. Opens up with the brilliant Where Eagles Dare. I've got a bootleg of this concert, and the opening of this track. But what is great, before they come out on stage, they play the Where Eagles Dare theme, and you get Broadsword calling Danny Boy, and then the next thing you hear is Nico on the drums. Whoa! And what an introduction to the band on this track. Great drumming, and I love the riffs, of course. And it's about one of my favourite war movies, so absolutely brilliant track. Second track, Revelations. I love this. What I love about this, you get that start, then it goes into a nice little bit of melody, and then you get that dun-dun-dun, dun-dun, then it picks up the beat again. Fantastic track. Fly to Vicaras. Great track. Lives in the shadow of another track on this album that was released as a single. We'll talk about that in a minute. I love this track. I love the drive of it. It's fantastic. Then we get another classic. Die. If you're gonna die with your boots on. Seen them perform this. It's a great track. Galloping song again. Then we get The Trooper. Probably their best single they ever put out. It lives in the shadow of poor old Fly to Vicaras. There's so much good about this song. You definitely get that galloping feel, and I think it's still got some of the best guitar solos in a single anyway. And I don't get bored of this song at all. It's one of the only songs that everyone loves that I still love. It is fantastic. Then we get Still Life. I love this song. I like that at the beginning, Nico talking backwards. I actually saw them perform this live. When was it? 1988. It's an absolutely brilliant song. Got a lot of atmosphere to it as well. One of the forgotten tracks on this album, I think. Then we get probably the second worst song recorded by Iron Maiden, Quest for Fire. This is just pants. Silly lyrics, silly song. Then we get Sun and Steel. strong track, more of the galloping bass lines from Steve Harris, terrific track. Then we get my favourite track on the album, the last track, To Tame a Land. I love this. It's got a great start to this track. What I like, you get some very short bass intro, and then we go straight into the song. Got some great riffs, and Bruce is on fire on this. This, I think, is probably one of the most underrated Iron Maiden albums. It's pure quality, and what an introduction to the band and to the fans for Nico McBrain. Really strong drummer. Remains one of my favourite albums to this day. An album that I do play a lot, and I'll give it an RTO ranking of 9.5. Top 3. Ooh, this was hard. This to me is the 3 out. If I was going, if someone had never heard Iron Maiden, these are the 3 albums I would give them before any of the newer stuff. So, coming in at number 3, we have the second album, released in 1981. It's the Brilliant Killers. First album that we see Adrian Smith, and the last from Paul Di'Anno. And it was the first album that Martin Birch produced, and he went on to produce every album up till Fear of the Dark. So the lineup on here is Paul Di'Anno, Dave Murray, Adrian Smith, Steve Harris, and Clive Burr. Opens up, of course, with the Ides of March. A short bit of music, but absolutely brilliant. And I love how they opened up their shows with this before they come on and did everything else. It's a terrific piece of music. I just love it. And then it goes straight into one of my favourite tracks. It's still a favourite today, Rothschild. I think it's one of Steve Harris's best bass lines ever. I just love that driving of it and the heavy guitars. Absolutely brilliant. Third track, classic, Murders in the Rue Morgue. Best version of this however is actually from Beast over Hammersmith. Absolutely brilliant. But this is a great track. Paul Di'Anno's vocal is one of the finest he did with Iron Maiden on that. I heard a live version, obviously with Paul singing it, and it's fantastic as well. Then we get Another Life, solid track, great riffs on that one. Then we get Genghis Khan. This is my favourite instrumental piece of music that this band have ever done. I love that bit in the middle, that like a chunky sound, and then you get Dave Murray coming in with a great guitar solo. Fantastic. Then we get another brilliant track, Innocent Exile. This has got more slap bass from Steve, great riffs, and a fine vocal performance by Paul Di'Anno. Then we get one of my all-time favourite songs, Killers. I saw them play this in '88. It's brilliant. I just love that bass line, and then it goes boom, and doesn't matter who I hear singing this, it's great. Bruce sings it great, Paul sings it great. I don't think Blaze ever did do it. I hope he didn't. It's top 3 Maiden song for me. It's absolutely belting, and I'll say it's probably Paul Di'Anno's best ever performance in Iron Maiden. Then we get Prodigal Son. Doesn't really fit on this album. Pleasant enough song, but when you put it to the other tracks, it doesn't really thing. Okay, Purgatory, Punky Maiden, great track. And then it ends up with another classic. Used to close their shows back in the day. Drifter. I love the guitar solos on this. It's just a brilliant song. Absolute killer album. Takes me back to I think I was in hospital when this album. No, I wasn't. Was I? Yeah, I think I was in hospital when this came out. I remember, because my nan used to buy me just loads of stuff on cassette, and she brought this for me because she knew I like heavy metal, and it got played to death. Wore the tape out, so when I come out of hospital I had to go and get it again, but I got it on album then. Absolutely stonking album. Love it to bits, and I'll give it an RTO ranking of 9.6. Okay then, number 2. 5th album, released in 1984. We are talking about Powerslave. Bruce, Dave, Adrian, Steve and Nico. Opens up with the brilliant Aces High. Song about fighter pilots in World War II. Of course, the best version is the live version. Brilliant track. Okay, second track, 2 minutes to midnight. Got one of the best opening riffs of a song. I think it's a track that is a little bit overplayed now, but it's still a classic. Nothing wrong with that one at all. And then we get an instrumental, Lost for Words, Big Horror. Classic little track. Really like this. And we get Flash of the Blade. Love the guitar work at the beginning of this. Then it goes into that nice riff. Bruce is on fire. Fantastic track. Then we get the Duelists. It's a great track, but it goes on a little bit too long. Then we get Back in the Village. Not keen on this one. It's a bit of a filler track, I think. Then we get the brilliant Powerslave. Another stunning track. It's very eerie, atmospheric. Terrific drumming on here from Nico, of course. Very strong track. Then we get the classic, the brilliant, the Rime of the Ancient Mariner. One of my favourite long tracks, without a doubt. I think this is one of them tracks that it was very popular and everyone loved it, and they tried to repeat it and they never really captured the same atmosphere as they got on this track. I mean, I saw it live, seen them played live twice. It's just awesome, absolutely awesome. This is an absolute belter of an album. Apart from the 2 songs on here, every song is stunning, and I think that's why it's not my number 1, because there's 2 tracks on here that really let it down. But I still give it an RTO ranking of 9.7. So I'm sure you've all guessed what my favourite Iron Maiden album is now. I wonder how many of you actually guessed that this is what my number 1 is. If you did, just put it in the comments below. See if you're getting to notice my traits. So coming in at number 1 then, it's the 7th album, released in 1988. 7th Son, on a 7th Son. Adrian Smith's last album before his return. So we got the lineup of Bruce, Dave, Adrian, Steve and Nico. Opens up with the brilliant Moonchild. Again, a brilliant intro. For once the acoustic guitar works, and I love how the intro builds up and the drums come in and kicks off into an absolutely brilliant belting track. Top draw stuff. Infinite Dreams. Again, it bit like Revelations. This just builds up and builds up, and then it goes off on some great guitar riffing, great use of the synth guitar. It's just a terrific track. Can I Play with Madness? Classic song, love it. Love the video, of course. I'm a big Python fan, and this was Graham Chapman, one of his last appearances on screen. So I love that because he's a big part of my life in comedy, and having one of my favourite bands and one of my favourite comics. Fantastic. The Evil That Men Do, classic Iron Maiden, one of Steve Harris's galloping bass lines. Brilliant song. Then we get the classic Seventh Son of a Seventh Son, second only to Rhyme of the Ancient Mariner. Fantastic track. What can you say? It's up there with Ancient Mariner for a start. I love the driving riffs, and the guitar solos are brilliant. I think the ending could have been a little bit better, but don't take away from this fantastic song. Then we get The Prophecy, again a great track. Love Bruce's vocal on it, and I love the guitar work on this. But what makes this track is the very end, where the electric guitars fade out and you get this lovely bit of acoustic guitar. Lovely way to end the track. Then we get the Clairvoyant, brilliant track. In the days when you get a little bass intro that's only 30 seconds and not 13 minutes, then you get them classic guitars from Adrian and Dave playing off each other, intertwining. One of the classics. The last track, Only the Good Die Young, probably the weakest track on the album. It's still got some great riffs and a great guitar solo, but it's not one of my favourites. So this is what I think when Iron Maiden were at their peak, both on album and live. I saw them three times at this peak, when they was at their peak. Stunning album. Seventh Son of Seventh Son sounds fantastic live. Always been a great live track. So I'll give this an RTO ranking of 9.8. Okay then, well that was great doing that one, and I hope whoever requested enjoys it. It's always a pleasure to do what people have asked for, and it's one of my favourite bands, and I think, you know, when I've been a fan for so long, I can give if I think they've done something they shouldn't do, I will speak my mind about it. If I've upset some people, I'm sorry, but you know, this is my opinions, and if you don't agree with me, just put them in the comments. But remember, keep them about the music, nothing about personal, because we had that little debate last weekend about people that get personal. I don't mind you criticising the songs, but don't criticise me as a person. We all hear things differently. Pick that up from another great YouTuber, Pete Pardo. We all listen to things, hear things differently in our minds. It doesn't mean that we're wrong. It doesn't mean we're right. It's what we feel from here into here. Okay, time for some plug-in. You go, oh god, here he goes again. Don't forget, we have got a quiz coming up. If you want to join in, if you want to answer sheet form, entry form, whatever you want to call it, down the bottom here, my email address appears. What else can I tell you? tomorrow night we've got a live stream from 8:30. Hope you can join us for that at some stage. Don't forget to go and look at Redbubble. Click on the banner. I've ordered a couple of bits, and when they get here I will show you all what you get. I mean, you've seen the t-shirt. I've ordered a hoodie, and I've ordered something else as well. I'll tell you about. So go and have a look at that. That's all for today. I'll be back tomorrow. What have we got for you tomorrow? Well, it's Thursday, so that means it's then and now. And we have got the Mighty Rush. One of my favourite bands. Going to look at their first album and their last. I'm going to look at some of them. I'm not going to go through the whole catalogue as such tomorrow because there's so many, but I'm going to pick out some of my favourite songs off each of the albums. I'm not going to go through every song like I normally do because there's so many. If you want to hear that, you have to do a full ranking, but we'll talk about that tomorrow. But so tomorrow it's just about me picking my favourite songs off each album. And then album artwork tomorrow. This goes back to the week before when we did the Sparks this time last week, and their album artwork is a bit odd and obscure, just like some of their music, and I love it for them. So tomorrow we're doing the best to the worst. We're actually going the other way around. We're going to put the best one bottom, and then we're going to look at the worst cover they ever put out. So that'll be a lot of fun. So I will see you all tomorrow. Take care for now.